The Hunter Biden story continues to get weirder and weirder as we go further and further down the rabbit hole with that. The FBI had a press conference last night talking about, of all things, Iranian and Chinese collusion. So we'll talk a bit about what happened there. Joe Biden's tax plan comes out and it could be detrimental to the middle class. We'll talk a bit about what's happening there and a little bit of preview on what's happening tonight with the debates. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, ladies, gentlemen, transgenders, bisexuals, and everybody in between. My name is Jay Edgar. We have got I guess it was kind of a slow news day yesterday, wasn't it? But we still got a bunch to get to today here. A bunch of stuff to talk about, and a bunch of really weird stuff that popped up, including this odd announcement that NASA has something about the moon, but they won't tell us for 5 more weeks. So they'll tell us we have the announcement, but they won't tell us what it is. You'll just have to sit and wait for another month and a quarter, which is weird. Plus, we've got a thing that I like and a thing that I hate tonight, which the thing that I like I'm pretty excited for, in spite of the fact that we're going to have to skip it for the week here. I think you know what I'm talking about here. But before we get into any of this, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We carry great shows such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Generational Gap, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff. We also carry The Freckles and Brit Show and The R-Rated Conservative. Come on over there, pick up some of our swag, and help us support great creators. Just a little look at what the stocks looked like yesterday. They were up, they were down, they were up, they were down, they were up, and then they finished on the downside, unfortunately. 0.35% down throughout the day, and the futures are not looking any better because nobody knows what's happening in Washington. Even the people in Washington don't know what's happening in Washington, but, I mean, at this point, what have we been doing now? We're on episode 169, I think. We've been doing this for 7 months. Are you really surprised by the fact that nobody in Washington knows what the hell is going on? Because I'm not. It's been 8 months, hasn't it? Yeah, it's been 8 months. Are you surprised by this? I'm not anymore because nobody knows what's going on. I can't even make a prediction about the election anymore just because there's so much stupid shit that's happening at this point. All right, let's see what they have to say over from the investors at Investors Business Daily. Dow Jones Futures. Tesla leads earnings movers. Stock market rally needs a win with stimulus talks in focus from Ed Carson. Let's get the live chat up here so I can see what you guys are saying. Dow Jones Futures tilted higher Thursday morning along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures amid election interference and stimulus deal concerns. Tesla and Align Technology were notable movers before the open. Tesla stock, Align Technology, Chipotle Mexican Grill, oddly enough, is on this list again. Edwards Life Sciences, Lam Research, and CSX reported earnings late Wednesday. West Pharmaceutical Services, Tractor Supply Company, Pulte Group, Integris, and Danaher reported early Thursday. It's always weird. I mean, you see these big tech names. Tesla, Amazon, Lam Research. These big names of people that are supposed to be these massive companies out there. Just juxtaposed against Chipotle Mexican Grill and Tractor Supply. I mean, it's good that they're doing that, but still, it's kind of weird to see. All right, the stock market rally retreated modestly Wednesday near session lows as stimulus talks remained in focus. The major indices and leading stocks are near key levels and could use a win. Tesla, Chipotle, Align Technology, CSX, EW, LRCX, all were near buy points heading into earnings, so were West Pharma stock and Tractor Supply. Tesla rose overnight on stronger than expected earnings, rebounding from key levels, though it is not yet signaling a breakout. But Align stock soared 24% on blowout results, pointing to an earnings gap. CSX rose on strong earnings and a stepped up buyback, signaling a possible breakout. On the downside, Chipotle fell amid rising delivery costs. Tractor Supply, EW, and LRCX stock retreated despite beating views. West Pharma reported strong earnings and guidance but is not yet trading. In Wednesday's stock market action, the stock market rally opened with a solid advance, but then the major indices moved between modest gains and losses as investors awaited a more definitive news on stimulus deal. Both House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and White House officials voiced optimism about a deal with more stimulus talks set for Thursday, but Pelosi said a stimulus deal might not happen until after the November 3rd election. The major indices closed in the red near the day's worst levels. Worse, many leading stocks were roughed up. Snapchat owner Snap skyrocketed on earnings. PayPal broke out as it moved into cryptocurrencies. But Netflix fell on earnings while CRISPR Therapeutics tumbled on patient death in a clinical trial. More broadly, cloud software, solar stocks, U.S. e-commerce plays, and home builders suffered significant losses. Well, it is October, and I know that those of you down in Oklahoma, Florida, and places like that can build homes year-round, but up here, where it hasn't done anything but rain for 3 days, where it was 32 degrees 3 days ago, it's now going to be 70 degrees today. We can't build homes year-round, so that is going to take a hit. As for tech giants, Apple stock, Amazon, Advanced Micro Devices, and Shopify fell slightly, while Microsoft, Adobe, and Tesla eked out slim gains. All closed near the lows of their new handles, and the handle for Apple and now AMD stock is slightly below the midpoint for their bases. Tesla stock, PayPal, and Chipotle are on the IBD leaderboard. PayPal stock is also on Swing Trader and the IBD long-term leaders list. Microsoft and Adobe stock are also long-term leaders. AMD, Adobe, Amazon, Microsoft, and LRCX are on the IBD 50. On the futures, Dow Jones futures rose a fraction versus fair value off overnight lows on the election interference news. S&P 500 futures tilted higher. NASDAQ 100 futures climbed 0.3%, with Tesla and Align boosting the big cap index. Futures turned lower overnight as national security officials said Wednesday evening that Russia and Iran have obtained voter contact information with the apparent goal of meddling with the U.S. elections. Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe and Iranians sent threatening emails to Democrat voters to make it look like they were coming from the far-right Proud Boys. President Trump and Democratic nominee Joe Biden have their final debate tonight, which is going to be streamed over on the DLive as a DLive exclusive, so come and hang out with us. I have confirmation from the R-rated conservative and from Stephen Ignoramus. I've got a third, but I have no confirmation from him yet. I will put the elbow into him just a little bit after we get off the stream here and make sure, but he's somebody that you guys know and love. He's been on Ed's World before, and it'll be an enjoyable point to have a conversation with the guy. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So that's what we're seeing from the investments today. We'll take a look at what happened yesterday. With CNBC, stock futures fall slightly amid stimulus and election uncertainty. Tesla shares gain from Fred Imbert and Thomas Frank. Futures contracts tied with the major U.S. stocks indices slipped early Thursday amid further uncertainty around fiscal stimulus talks and the election. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures lost 32 points or 0.1%. S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100 futures were also down 0.1%. Thursday's losses were kept in check after shares of Tesla, Coke, Dow, AT&T, and CSX all rose on strong earnings. Traders continued to watch stimulus talks as markets swing this month on headlines regarding the negotiations. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's Deputy Chief of Staff, Drew Hamill, continued to offer investors some incremental room for optimism late on Wednesday. The Speaker and Secretary Mnuchin spoke today at 2:30 p.m. for 48 minutes. Today's conversation brings us closer to being able to put pen to paper and write legislation, Hamill wrote on Twitter just after the closing bell on Wall Street. The Speaker and Secretary plan to speak again tomorrow, hopefully with further guidance from committee chairs as they work to resolve open questions, he added. The Deputy Chief of Staff said the White House and Democrats continue to narrow their differences over health priorities, but that more needs to be done to ensure the schools are safe. So, they're going to continue to play the stock market until the election, hopefully eking out a win for either side. But I know Nancy Pelosi is a bit backed into a corner with her decisions throughout the year. holding out to get that $3.3 trillion in a bill that was so fucking laden with pork that you could call it Babe. That's some pig. Other 70s literary references that turned into movies in the 90s. Alright, so that's what we have up off of this. Let's get into the news. Starting with Fox News, laptop connected to Hunter Biden, linked to FBI money laundering probe. From Jake Gibson and Brooks Singman. The FBI subpoena of a laptop and a hard drive purportedly belonging to Hunter Biden came in connection with a money laundering investigation in late 2019, according to documents obtained by Fox News and verified by multiple federal law enforcement officials who reviewed them. It is unclear at this point whether the investigation is ongoing or if it was directly related to Hunter Biden. Multiple law enforcement officers, as well as two separate government officials, confirmed the authenticity of these documents, which were signed by FBI Special Agent Joshua Wilson. Wilson did not immediately respond to Fox News' request for comment. One of the documents obtained by Fox News was designated as an FBI receipt for property form, which details the Bureau's interactions with John Paul Mac Isaac, the owner of the Mac shop, who reported the laptop's contents to authorities. The document has a case ID section, which is filled in with a handwritten number 272D, Bravo Alpha 3065729. According to multiple officials, the FBI's website, 272 is the Bureau's classification for money laundering, while 272 Delta refers to money laundering, unknown SUA, specified unlawful activity, white-collar crime program. According to the FBI documents, one government official described 272 Delta as transnational or blanket. The Bravo Alpha indicates the case was opened in the FBI's Baltimore field office, sources said. The documents state that the subpoena was carried out in Wilmington, Delaware, which falls under the jurisdictions of the FBI's Baltimore field office. So we've got a bunch of documents here. With all the money that's put out, both to Fox News and their advertising, and to the FBI themselves, you would think that they would have a clearer camera. Because that's not the stream. That's actually how blurry that is. The FBI cannot open a case without a predication, so they believe there was a predication for criminal activity, a government official told Fox News. This means there was sufficient evidence to believe that there was criminal conduct. Another document obtained by Fox News was a subpoena sent to Isaac to testify before the U.S. District Court in Delaware on December 9th of 2019. One page of the subpoena shows what appears to be serial numbers for a laptop and a hard drive taken into possession. Based on the date of the subpoena, an official told Fox News that the case would have been opened prior to Isaac's subpoena. If a criminal case was opened and subpoenas were issued, that means that there is a high likelihood that both the laptop and hard drive contain fruits of criminal activity, the official said. Fox News first reported on Tuesday evening that the FBI is in possession of the laptop in question. The FBI has declined to confirm or deny the existence of an investigation into the laptop or the emails, as is standard practice. So, they know something. Something is happening with this. Once again, I still can't say whether or not this is legitimate, but once again, more and more of this is pushing me into the camp that this is actually legitimate and actually something happening. It's just, once again, the timing. The timing is the key to this. Let's keep going here. From the Daily Wire, Hunter Biden business partner, a pro-Democrat Navy veteran, Hunter asked Dad to sign off on deals, from Ryan Saavedra. A U.S. Navy veteran who reportedly was a former business partner of the Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, unloaded on Biden in a statement early on Thursday morning, saying that Biden lied to the American people when he claimed that he did not talk to his son about his son's business dealings. Tony Bobulinski, who left the U.S. Navy as a lieutenant, says that the few political donations that he has made in his life have been to Democrats. Bobulinski said that in the statement to the New York Post, that he has been contacted by the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs and the Senate Committee on Finance, requesting that he produce all documents related to his business dealings with the Biden family, and noted that he is moving immediately to comply with the request. Bobolinsky confirms that he was one of the recipients of the May 13th, 2017 email published by the Post 8 days ago. That email from another partner in the group laid out cash and equity positions and mysteriously included a 10% set aside for the big guy. New York Post's Michael Goodwin wrote sources have said that the big guy was Joe Biden in a matter-of-fact manner. Bobolinsky states that the email is genuine and that the former vice president and the man leading the 2020 race is indeed the big guy. So, definitely some stuff going on here. Now, we've got some witness statements coming off of this, but we're in a situation right now as well where this could either be the ultimate October surprise, and we don't know if that's actually going to be the case of this, or on the other end of it, if this is something that they knew about and were trying to cover up from the beginning. And this comes to me. Seawall put this in the Discord. He didn't put it in the articles worth investigating. He dropped it right in general. But I wanted to bring this up to you here because he says, and I quote, look at the date on this tweet. Frank Luntz on December 9th of 2019. So right before we went up into worldwide timeout, as we were getting ready to sit down and impeach him. He's impeached. We're going to impeach him twice. We'll impeach him, we'll impeach him, we'll impeach him till he's gone. Right before all that stupid bullshit. While we were sitting here wondering what was going to happen with the budget, Frank Luntz tweeted out, if Joe Biden is the next Democratic nominee, Hunter Biden will be the 2020 version of Hillary's emails. And similar to the Dems' 2016 nominee, Biden has refused to give straightforward answers to any question that reporters ask him about Hunter. Coming up from Axios, tweeted on December 8th of 2019, Joe Biden on his son Hunter's work in Ukraine. I don't know what he was doing. At Mike Allen, well, you've had a lot of time. Isn't this something you want to get to the bottom of? Biden, no, because I trust my son. Let's actually have a listen to that.
On your son, Hunter Biden, President Trump says, Sleepy Joe has real problems. Reminds me of Crooked Hillary and her 33,000 deleted emails. A lot of the Ukraine charges about you have been debunked and were unfair. There's one thing that a lot of Democrats even do wonder about, and that is Hunter Biden, your son, was getting paid a lot of money to serve on the board of a Ukrainian energy company facing serious corruption charges. You were the vice president running point on Ukraine. The average Joe hears that and says, that sounds fishy. What's your understanding of what your son was doing for an extraordinary amount of money?
I don't know what he was doing. I know he was on the board. I found out he was on the board after he was on the board, and that was it. And there's nobody...
Well, you've had a lot of time. Isn't this something you want to get to the bottom of?
No, because I trust my son.
But that doesn't pass the smell test. Like when you're vice president, isn't there a higher standard? Don't you need to know what's happening with your family? Don't you need to put down some guardrails?
Unless there was something that was, there was something on its face that was wrong. There's nothing on its face that was wrong. So look, if you want to talk about problems, you know, let's talk about Trump's family. I mean, come on. This is...
Deflect, 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 emergency, deflect, deflect.
So
These guys are amazing.
So you think that everything that happened was kosher?
You know there's not one single bit of evidence, not one little tiny bit, to suggest anything done was wrong. You know that, but you keep asking me these questions. It's okay. You're doing what you have to do, but I'm not worried about it. Look, the American public knows me.
Last one on this. Say you're elected, you're in office. What guardrails would you have to be sure that your son, your brother Jimmy, doesn't do anything to trade on the family name?
They will not be engaged in any foreign business because of what's happened in this administration. No one's going to be seeking patents for things from China.
Deflect, deflect, deflect.
No one's going to be engaged in that kind of thing.
So no foreign business for your
Correct.
relatives in office.
I love that. No, man, no, I trust my son, but look at Trump over there. Don't pay attention to me, man. Look at Trump over there. You know that's exactly what that was. All right, let's keep going here. Get the live chat back up so I can see what you got here. From The Blaze, Rachel Maddow and a host of other liberals spread fake news about fabricated texts between Rudy Giuliani and Ivanka Trump. This is from Carlos Garcia. MSNBC host Rachel Maddow and numerous other liberal personalities and outlets were fooled into spreading false claims against Rudy Giuliani after accusations of inappropriate behavior surfaced. The video from an upcoming Borat movie appeared to show Giuliani reaching into his pants while speaking to a fake reporter in a hotel room. Giuliani later tweeted out that he was merely trying to take off his microphone and that he was being smeared because of the revelations he was making about what's on a hard drive allegedly owned by Hunter Biden. Maddow and others reposted a claim from Nick Jacobs, the vice president of the College Democrats of Indiana, that he had fooled Giuliani by a text into believing that he was Ivanka Trump. Maddow retweeted a tweet from David Freeland. Let's look at the tweet. Rudy seems to have learned his lesson, is tightening protocols, checking IDs, and is now being taken in by someone claiming to be Ivanka Trump, but who is in fact the vice president of the College Democrats of Indiana. Maddow retweeted a tweet from David Freelander, an editor of Politico magazine, mocking Giuliani. Both of these tweets were later deleted when Jacobs admitted that it was a parody meant to be a joke. They weren't the only ones to fall for it. I can't, said Stephanie Rule, MSNBC anchor. I'm hysterically laughing, tweeted Emma Vigeland of the Young Turks. Rudy Giuliani is the easiest mark in the world. He's probably an unwitting asset for every foreign government in the world. Friends and foe, said Adam Mordecai, the strategy director for Progress Now. Reminder, Rudy owns a cybersecurity company, said Christian Snyder of USA Today. Giuliani said that he was going to drop more information about what he had found in the laptop hard drive allegedly belonging to Hunter Biden. Democrats have accused him of participating in a Russian disinformation campaign, but the director of national intelligence officially denies the claims in a statement on Monday. I don't even know what's happening in this world anymore. This whole world is just... I need a clown mask for stuff like this because this is clown world at this point. All right, let's keep going here. From CNBC, Iran and Russia obtained U.S. voter registration data in effort to influence the election, national security officials say. This is from Dan Mangan, Kevin Breininger, and Spencer Kimball. Iran and Russia have both obtained information about American voter registrations and are trying to influence the public about the upcoming U.S. presidential elections, national security officials said on Wednesday night. Iran and Russia have taken specific actions to influence public opinion related to our elections, said DNI John Radcliffe at a hastily scheduled press conference. First, we have confirmed that some of the voter registration information has been obtained by Iran separately by Russia, Radcliffe said at the briefing, which comes less than 2 weeks before Election Day. This data can be used by foreign actors to attempt to communicate false information to registered voters that they hope will cause confusion, sow chaos, and undermine your confidence in American democracy. Specifically, Radcliffe said Iran has been sending spoofed emails designed to intimidate voters, incite social unrest, and damage the president, Donald Trump, who is facing former Vice President Joe Biden, the Democratic nominee, in an election. Additionally, Iran is distributing other content to include a video that implies that individuals could cast fraudulent ballots even from overseas, he said. This video and any claims about such allegedly fraudulent ballots are not true, Radcliffe said. He added that these actions are desperate attempts by desperate adversaries. Even if the adversaries pursue further attempts to intimidate or attempt to undermine voter confidence, know that our election systems are resilient and you can be confident your votes are secure. Although we have not seen the same actions from Russia, We are aware that they have obtained some voter information just as they did in 2016, Radcliffe said. Minutes before the press conference, the Washington Post reported that U.S. officials had warned state and local authorities that Iran had conducted a deceptive campaign to send threatening emails to Democratic voters while posing as members of the far-right group the Proud Boys. A Homeland Security official also told the state and local election administrators on a call Wednesday that holes had been detected in their election websites, Post reported. The emails appeared to target Democrats using information from digital voter databases, according to the Post, which cited 2 U.S. officials. The messages threatened recipients, some of whom were in swing states, to vote for Trump on Election Day or we will come after you, the Post reported. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, shortly after the press conference, told MSNBC that he had received a classified briefing earlier that afternoon about election security. He cast doubt on Ratcliffe's statement about the Iran emails affecting the people's view of Trump. It was clear to me that the intent of Iran in this case, and Russia, in many more cases, is to basically undermine confidence in our elections. This action, I do not believe, was aimed at discrediting President Trump, Schumer said, because then he can come back next year and say, well, Trump stole the election, don't you know? And there was election interference, and it's invalid, and we're going to have to impeach again. FBI Director Christopher Wray, who spoke after Ratcliffe at the press conference, said, "We're not going to tolerate foreign interference in our elections or any criminal activity that threatens the sanctity of your vote or undermines public confidence in the outcomes of the election." You should be confident that your vote counts, Wray said. Early, unverified claims to the contrary should be viewed with a healthy dose of skepticism. A White House official said that the White House was briefed on the findings by the FBI and Radcliffe's office. Oh, here we go. This is going to be Russian bounties all over again. You know it, and I know it. They were briefed on the findings, don't you know? It was the briefing. The briefing, my God. Don't forget about the briefing. Since the beginning of the administration, President Trump has directed law enforcement, defense, and intel agencies to monitor and thwart any attempts to interfere in our elections, the official said. This shows the efforts of our great law enforcement are working. So, I don't know what's happening with this. I read somewhere, and I've not been able to independently verify, that the Lincoln Project is involved with this, and they're involved with the Russian and the Iranian attempts to undermine the election. I can believe that Iran would want to have some sort of controlling influence in this election at some point, because I believe that the mullahs would be pissed off at this point about the peace deals between the UAE and Israel and the Saudi Arabia and Israel, because Iran used to be the one to push everybody around and say, no, get on our side. Get on our side. Oh, we will protect you from those evil Israel. Oh, come over here. Given the fact that those peace deals happened and the pullout from the Iran nuclear deal, would lead me to believe that they don't want Mr. Trump to be president anymore. But there's a lot going on with this story. No independent confirmation as to whether or not the Lincoln Project was involved with this. But there are rumors going around about it. I've not watched the press conference yet either, so they may have said something in the conference itself, and the mainstream media doesn't want to put it out there because they're NB fucking C. But I will go back and watch the press conference in its entirety and see if there's any verification to this. Next one on the same lines, from WESH2 out of Florida. Iran behind emails meant to intimidate Florida voters. Vote-ing, by the way. I see that on the picture here. From the Proud Boys to Kim, retracted. Hi, retracted. We are in possession of all your information. You are currently registered as a Democrat, and we know this because we have gained access into the entire voting infrastructure. You will vote for Trump on Election Day, or we will come after you. Change your party affiliation to Republican to let us know that you received this message, and will comply. We will know which candidate you voted for. I would take this seriously if I were you. 2307 retracted lane. U.S. officials say Iran is responsible for emails meant to intimidate American voters and sow unrest in multiple states, including Florida. Officials said Tehran and Moscow have also obtained voter registration information with the goal of interfering with the election. John Ratcliffe, the intelligence officer, and FBI Director Chris Wray said the U.S. will impose costs on any foreign countries interfering with the 2020 election. Democratic voters in at least 4 battleground states, including Florida and Pennsylvania, have received threatening emails, falsely purporting to be from far-right group Proud Boys that warned, "We will come after you if the recipients didn't vote for President Trump." Election officials in Central Florida contacted law enforcement Tuesday after registered voters reported receiving threatening emails that said, "Vote for Trump or else." The sender posts the voter's full name and address, along with a threatening message ordering them to vote to re-elect President Trump. Representative Val Deming spoke out on the issue while she was in Orlando on Wednesday. "Desperate people do desperate things. Voters are sick and tired of it and will not allow themselves to be fooled or intimidated," Deming said. I'm guessing this last line came before it got released that it was Iran that was doing it. But we'll see what happens up off of this, and I'm sure that there's going to be some sort of thing that comes out about this, and everybody's going to scream about interference, and this is going to be what we keep seeing through the rest of the election. Stop playing, you fucker. Alright, let's get rid of that, otherwise it'll autoplay against us. From Fox News, CNN skips FBI news conference revealing Iran-Russia's attempt to interfere with the 2020 election. The anti-Trump network has a history of skipping major news events. From Joseph A. Wolfson, CNN may bill itself as a 24-hour news network, but chose not to bother with the breaking news coming from the FBI news conference regarding election interference by bad actors overseas. While Fox and MSNBC aired the remarks made by DNI John Ratcliffe and FBI Director Chris Wray about foiled attempts by Iran and Russia to sow chaos and disinformation in the 2020 election. No, given the fact that these news stories are coming out, I'm not going to say this is foiled because everybody already knows that they're doing this and nobody trusts anybody at this point. CNN, which heavily pushed the Russian collusion narrative through much of the Trump presidency, continued with its regularly scheduled crap as programming, only to then summarize the roughly 7-minute presser in the final minutes of the ironically titled Out Front. CNN has a history of skipping major news events. Last week, the anti-Trump network skipped multiple days of the Supreme Court confirmation hearing of Judge Amy Coney Barrett, prioritizing coverage towards Democratic vice presidential nominee Kamala Harris, who sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee and runs her mouth. While Fox News and MSNBC offered virtually uninterrupted coverage of the hearing, CNN also chose to ignore the explosive New York Post report on Hunter Biden's emails. The most balanced and the most impartial news network in the world, folks. CNN raised eyebrows in the early months of the coronavirus outbreak for beginning to skip President Trump's remarks at the White House task force briefings. In July, both CNN and MSNBC ignored the breaking news of the mass shooting that took place in Chicago that left at least 15 people shot outside of a funeral home. During Wednesday evening's news conference, Ratcliffe informed the public that Iran and Russia had taken specific actions to influence voters' opinions. He noted that the registration information they obtained could be used to confuse voters through false communication. The Iranian interference that's been discovered, Ratcliffe said, has been designed to incite social unrest and damage President Trump. Well, but Russia's in Trump's pocket, don't you know? Or he's in their pocket. They want him to win. Russia wants him to win. This data can be used by foreign actors to attempt to communicate false information to registered voters that they hope will cause confusion, sow chaos, and undermine your confidence in the American democracy, he said. To that end, we've already seen the Iran sending spoofed emails designed to intimidate voters, incite social unrest, and damage President Trump. You may have seen some reporting on this in the last 24 hours, or you may have even been one of the recipients of those emails. So, I love the fact that CNN decided to skip this. They are the most impartial name in news, after all. They have no agenda. They just want to put the news out there, don't you know? All right, let's keep going. Now we've got another one from NPR. And this is how you read NPR. You're driving along. You listen to this. You listen to your NPR. And it helps put you to sleep on the road, causing car accidents everywhere. But they're NPR. And you can listen to it like this all day, every day. Democrats plan to boycott Senate committee vote on the Barrett nomination, from Nina Totenberg. Senate Democrats say they plan to boycott Thursday's scheduled vote on the nomination of Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. Yeah, that's happening today, guys. Throughout the hearings last week, committee Democrats demonstrated the damage a Justice Barrett could do to health care, reproductive freedom, the ability to vote, and other core rights that Americans cherish. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee said in a statement announcing their boycott, "We will not grant this process any further legitimacy by participating in a committee markup of this nomination just 12 days before the culmination of an election that is already underway." Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham rejected the Democratic assertion that at least 2 minority members were needed to proceed with the nomination. "I will move forward," he said Wednesday evening. "She deserves a vote." In a subsequent statement, Graham called the Democratic decision to boycott the vote a choice that they're making. "I believe this does a disservice to Judge Barrett, who deserves a vote up or down." In his statement, he added, "The nomination process took a dark turn in 2013 when the Democrats changed the rules of the Senate for the district and circuit court nominees. Requiring a simple majority vote, my Democratic colleagues chose to engage in a partisan filibuster of Justice Neil Gorsuch for the first time in U.S. history, requiring the changing of the rules regarding Supreme Court nominations." When asked about Graham's remarks, Schumer replied, "We're not giving them the quorum they need to provide it. The rules require it." Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has indicated that he's planning a full Senate vote on the nomination on Monday. The maneuver would ensure that Barrett could be sworn in before the November 3rd election, and that she could participate in election questions that are already pending before the Supreme Court. President Trump has said he wanted Barrett confirmed before the election so she could be there to rule on cases that might arise in the aftermath of this election. Yeah, with the way that Judge Roberts goes, that's probably a good idea. Now, and we read the other one yesterday, where the case was rejected on a 4-4 vote, kicking it back down to lower courts. I forget what the case was right offhand here. But it got up to the Supreme Court, and they were deadlocked on a 4-4 vote as to whether to even hear it. So the case got rejected, kicked back down to lower courts. What was it? Oh, it was the Pennsylvania ballot thing. So yeah, Pennsylvania took it up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court voted 4-4 as to whether or not to hear it, which indicated a rejection. It got kicked away. And that's all well and good. But now if we get to the point where the Supreme Court has to weigh in, gets deadlocked on an election decision, we could actually be facing a true constitutional crisis at this point. If that were to come up and if that were to happen. If we're sitting at a even deadlock of 4-4 on election questions, nobody's going to know what to do at that point. I'm fairly certain that nobody's going to know what to do anyway at this point, because nobody knows what the hell is going on anymore. But we are in insanity world. Nobody knows what's happening, and the best thing we could possibly do is at least have an odd number of people on the Supreme Court so we can make a decision whether we like the decision or not, so we can at least avoid having a tie up there. All right, let's keep going here. From NBC News, why the Dems boycott of today's Amy Coney Barrett vote matters. This is from the Mad Owl blog, so this is bound to be intelligent. I didn't even see that when I pulled this up here. But this is from Steve Bannon. We are still learning more about Judge Amy Coney Barrett's background, including revelations this week that she served for nearly 3 years on the board of a private Christian school, that effectively barred admission of school of children of same-sex parents and made it plain that openly gay and lesbian teachers weren't welcome in the classroom. It's a private school, that's their prerogative. That's the sort of background that might have made for interesting questions during Barrett's Supreme Court confirmation hearings. But there were elements of the conservative judge's history that senators did not know at the time. Nevertheless, the Republican-led Senate Judiciary Committee is moving forward today with Barrett's confirmation process, though, as the Associated Press reported, the panel's Democratic members won't be there. Senate Democrats are set to boycott voting on the Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett at the Senate Judiciary Committee on Thursday. But there's little that they can do to prevent Republicans from rushing to confirm President Trump's pick before Election Day. The Judiciary Committee, which is controlled by the Republicans, is expected to change the rules if necessary. To recommend Barrett's nomination to the full Senate, senators are planning a rare weekend session to secure her confirmation on Monday. Now, normally, I will come out and say, don't change the rules, you're going to regret it. And I still highly believe that. They're going to regret this coming down the road. They're absolutely going to regret this coming down the road. But as of right now, the integrity of the election and the deciding vote on what happens with the election and not having an even split at election time, I do think take precedence over this. I think that it will be better to have an odd number of justices on the court at this point, rather than regretting changing the rules later on down the road. But I am normally a very, very big advocate for don't change the rules because your opponents can use that against you later on. So, hopefully, a couple of members in the opposition can pop up and try to keep this going through. Maybe Feinstein, who knows? They hate her enough that she's got nothing left to lose anyway, but that's possible. But under any other circumstance, I would say don't change the rules. You're going to regret this. But I think this is just a touch more important right now for this. So we'll see what happens here. Here's the context. 4 years after GOP senators said considering a Supreme Court nominee within 8 months of an election was unacceptable, Republicans plan to confirm a Supreme Court nominee 8 days before the election 2020. But before that can happen, the Senate Judiciary Committee has to move Barrett's nomination forward. And the first procedural step, what's called the committee markup, is today. Democrats clearly don't have the votes to stop the process, but they can try to deny the committee a quorum by boycotting the proceedings. As Minority Leader Schumer explained on the show last night, committee rules required that at least 2 members of the minority party are required to be on hand for the vote. A New York Times report added the Democrats, livid over the extraordinarily speedy process, plan to spurn the committee vote altogether. By doing so, they effectively dared Republicans to break their own rules to muscle the nomination through. So what will happen? Republicans will break their own rules to muscle the nomination through. Just like the Democrats would have done on the other side of this. And once again, same thing I always say, flip the parties and tell me if you feel the same way. That is the most important thing to come through this, is flip the parties and see if you still feel the same way. Because I guarantee you, 8 days before an election, with a Hillary nominee in a Chuck Schumer Senate, MSNBC would be jumping up and saying, well, just break the fucking rules. Nobody cares. Just push him through. Or her through. I guarantee it would be a her through. Push her through. Push her through. Do whatever you can. Get it through. This is the most important thing that we need. That's what MSNBC would be saying if it was the other direction. So definitely some action going on here. I can't wait to see what comes out of this vote and what happens with this, but a lot of important things moving on this one. All right, from CNBC. Biden's tax plan could create a tax rate of as much as 62% for New Yorkers and Californians, studies show. This was actually published on the 19th, 3 days ago, but now that we've got some conversation going on about the tax plan itself and people are realizing what's in it, it's important for us to talk about it as well. This is from Robert Frank. High earners in New York and California could face combined federal and state tax rates of 62% under Democrat presidential nominee Joe Biden's tax plan, according to experts. while Americans earning less than 400,000 would on average receive tax cuts under Biden's plan. Are you out of your mind? The highest earners would face double-digit increases in their official tax rates, according to nonpartisan analyses. In California, New Jersey, and New York City, taxpayers earning more than 400,000 a year could face combined state and local statutory income tax rates of more than 60%. In California, top earners could face a state and federal tax rate of as much as 62.6% under the Biden plan, according to calculations from Jared Walsack of the Tax Foundation. In New Jersey, the combined tax rates could be more than 60%, while in New York State, they could reach 58.2%. In New York City, home to most of the state's high earners, the combined city, state, and federal income tax rate would be just over 62%. Of course, few, if any, taxpayers pay the full statutory rates, which don't include deductions, credits, offsets, loopholes, and lower tax rates on other sources of income. Even though the top U.S. statutory tax rate is currently 37%, the effective rate, what taxpayers actually pay with help from their accountants, God damn it, I taunted the article and then I lost my place. For top earners is 26.8%. According to the Tax Foundation, the Biden campaign said that what matters to taxpayers is the economy are the effective rates, not the statutory rates. Under Biden's plan, the effective tax rate of the top 1%, the upper 1%, would increase from 26.8% to 39.8%, according to the Tax Policy Center. That means top earners in California and New York City would pay effective state and federal tax rates of around 53%, compared to the roughly 40% that they pay in effective rates today. What's more, if Democrats win the Senate and can pass legislation removing the $10,000 cap on state and local tax deductions, the combined state and local tax rates for top earners could be even lower. Yet the official combined tax rates for more than 60% for top earners would be the highest in more than 30 years and well above the rates under the Obama administration. The main drivers of the increase in Biden's plan are the hike in the top marginal tax rate to 39.6% from 37%, and the added payroll tax of 12.4% for those making more than $400,000 a year, which is split between the employee and the employer. Including other provisions in his plan, the top federal tax rate would be 49.338% under Biden, according to the Walsack. That was a lot of word soup, and a lot of big figures, but regardless, the people who are creating the jobs, the people who are entrepreneuring, the people who are creating businesses are going to get spanked under Biden. Moving a lot of them out of the way for the massive corporations that the left claims to hate, your Walmarts, your Amazons, your Facebooks, your Googles, and such like that, getting all the small business, well, the medium-sized businesses, let's say, out of the way so that these big businesses can thrive. Gotta love it. Sorry for all the technical jargon. All right, next one here comes to us from Fox Business. Joe Biden's tax plan will put middle class in peril, Home Depot's Langone says. From Talia Kaplan. Home Depot co-founder Ken Langone blasted Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's tax plan on Wednesday, saying that the middle class will be in peril. Langone told Mornings with Maria on Wednesday that the middle class will feel the effects of Biden's tax plan, even though the former vice president has said the wealthy should pay more in taxes, and that the tax code should be more progressive and equitable. That includes eliminating loopholes that favor the rich and large corporations. I don't know if there's any of us that have done well that will have a problem with paying more taxes, but it's a ruse to think that hitting us and hitting us alone is going to get the job done, Langone said. It won't, and the middle class will be in peril when you take money out of the hands of the middle class. You do a dramatic impact negatively on the economy. The middle class will not be exempt, he added. Tragically, it will punish them. It isn't going to punish us. Biden would repeal changes made to individual income taxes for the wealthy individuals with incomes over $400,000 under the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which means the top rate would revert back to 39.6% from 37%. Another big change Biden wants to make is to tax capital gains at the same rate as ordinary income for households earning more than $1 million. Currently, short-term capital gains are taxed at the same rates as income, but long-term gains are taxed at lower rates. The top long-term rate is 23.8%. You aren't going to get the revenue numbers just by taxing the rich, Langone told host Maria Bartiromo. The only way to tax increase will generate revenues is to go after the middle class. That's where the numbers are, he continued, adding that these people are being misled. There's not going to be enough money generated from the so-called rich to take care of all the needs, Langone went on to say. He then stressed that it is absolutely a fraud to suggest the money that's going to be needed is going to come from the rich and the super rich. The problem is, when you go after the middle class, you will begin to attack the backbone of the economy, and we will have a bad recession. We will have a very bad recession, Langone said. And that is a part of this too, and that's something that nobody seems to understand with the numbers. If you take the upper 1% and tax them 100% of their income, just take it all away from them, you can run Medicare for 2 years. Not to mention the fact that, as the CNBC article pointed out, and I had to taunt over that because, yeah, it's a trope, but it's reality all the same. The rich people have accountants, and they can get out of paying taxes. They can find all the loopholes. Their accountants, they can afford the best ones, will go through every line by line, and find every single deduction that they can find, leaving them with a much lower tax bill than everybody else. In the end of all of this, which they will turn around and invest in their business, create more jobs, and put more middle-class people to work. There's a lot going on with this, and yes, Langone is right. This is going to go after the middle class. It always will. Because there are people in the middle class. 1% of the people in this country, or as Bernie likes to even go as further, because he's in the upper 1%, the upper 1/10 of 1%. The upper 1/10 of 1% is like 3,000 people in the country. Just keep that in mind. The numbers, the number of people, and the amount that you can distribute out to have more people pay lower in taxes, less amount of taxes, but still get the revenue, is the middle class. If they want to get the kind of revenue for the kind of spending that they're suggesting, it's just a fact that they're going to have to go after the middle class. A better idea, rather than the tax plan that is going to affect the middle class, is stop spending money. Stop spending the money. Cut the budget, get a budget, slash the spending. Tax cuts for everybody. Tax cuts for everybody means tax receipts go up. We saw that over the last 3 years. Yes, people were paying less in taxes, but the number of receipts was going up. And the amount in some of the receipts was going up because people were getting better jobs. Stop the spending. Start there. Cut the taxes. You'll be amazed at what happens with this, and pass a budget. Omnibus, be damned. Stop with the omnibuses. Let's make a budget. Let's see what's going on with this. All right, from the Blaze, the Biden campaign takes down an ad of wealthy Democratic donors posing a struggling small business owner. From Phil Shiver. Is it Shiver or Shiver, I wonder? I don't know. The campaign for Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden appears to have removed an online ad after it drew widespread scrutiny for misleading voters. The campaign plug, which featured a wealthy Democratic donor posing as a small business owner struggling to stay afloat due to President Trump's COVID response, was reportedly taken down sometime between Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, according to the Daily Caller. The ad, which was posted in the Blaze's report on the news Tuesday, now reads unavailable and appears to be listed as private. The Twitter account for Joe Malkoon, who co-owns The Blind Pig, a popular Ann Arbor, Michigan live music venue featured in the ad, has also been made private. What's the background? For 50 years, The Blind Pig has been open and crowded, but right now, it's an empty room, Malkoon said in the video. This is the reality of Trump's COVID-19 response. We don't know how much longer we can survive not having any revenue. A lot of restaurants and bars that have been mainstays for years will not make it through this. This is Donald Trump's economy, he continued. There's no plan, and you don't know how to go forward. It makes me so angry. My only hope for my family and for this business and my community is that Joe Biden wins the election. It would later be revealed that Malkoun is not exactly representative of the many small business owners that have been decimated by the types of coronavirus-related lockdowns described in the ad. To the contrary, Malkoun is actually a wealthy angel investor who donated $5,000 to the Biden campaign in July while the pandemic still raged on. In an interview with a local news outlet in 2018, Malkoun described how he and his wife inherited a sizable sum of money after his wife's grandfather passed away. He said it was not like winning the lottery, or it was rather like winning the lottery, and described money as no object ever since. Besides being misleading, the ad was also incoherent in blaming Trump for the economic downturn, even though the president has been generally opposed to lengthy lockdowns. Democratic Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, on the other hand, has been regularly criticized for her strict pandemic guidelines. A former Vice President Biden recently suggested he'd implement national lockdown if needed to combat the coronavirus. And then the Supreme Court would say, no, you will not. Anything else? One of the more amusing fallouts of the story's development has to be how cold California Democratic Representative Eric Swalwell's take on the ad has become. Swalwell tweeted on Sunday that the ad was one of the best of the election season. So, we got all the way to the bottom of this one here, and yeah, absolutely. Once again, the Blaze hit it right on the head. This was a Whitmer lockdown. That's the reason that he can't open up his business. Not a Trump thing. It's not a Trump thing. He wants it open because he wants people out there making money, making business. I want the strongest economy that ever was, ever. The best economy. I have the best numbers, the best economy. Nobody has a better economy than me. So, and the ad is gone anyway. All right, from Fox News, I got 3 more here, and then we'll do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate, and we'll get on out of here. This is an opinion piece from Fox News. Lee Carter, Biden versus Trump at presidential debate. Both men must say these 4 words to voters. Vooters! We gotta say it to vooters! From Lee Carter. Thursday night is the last chance President Trump and former Vice President Biden have to make their case on the debate stage. And while the microphones can now be muted, there's one message that they must still get across with me. You will be safe. Here's why those 4 words are important and mean so much. No matter where you sit on the political spectrum, you will likely feel the same emotion. Right now, fear, and more than anything, we need to be reassured. We need to know that it's all going to be okay, that we can wake up after the election is decided, breathing a long-needed sigh of relief. And so, for both Trump and Biden, the message must be the same. But what it means coming from each of them will be totally different. Let's start with the president and then move on to the vice president. And I'm actually not going to go down into this article, and I want to talk just a bit about what Lee Carter had to say about this. Because he's right. The American people do need to wake up on Wednesday morning, and even after the inauguration, and feel that they're going to be safe. They need to have that reassurance. But they shouldn't be getting it from the government. That's been one of the big failures of the way American society has gone over the past 20 years. Is that the big safety, the safe feeling that everybody needs to get for whatever reason has to come from the federal government. It has to come from the presidency. One of the things that I've heard throughout the Trump presidency is how crass he is. The bad things that he says. How immoral he is. And I keep wondering why you're looking to the president for your moral compass. Most people have a Bible in their home. Even if they're non-religious. Most people have a Bible in their home. But even beyond that, the person who should be responsible for your morality, the people, I should say, your parents for bringing you up and how they brought you up, and yourself. I will come up and say, and this is the big one for your own morality, for making your own morality, for looking to yourself for morality. My parents raised me a certain way with a good moral compass, but I have looked through my life. I've looked through everything that goes along with that and the way that I grew up after I became an adult and the way that I grew into myself. And I'm considerably more strict and more conservative than my parents even were with my parents and growing up in the household that we did. It was acceptable for me to look at some of my parents' friends and use their first names with them. As an adult, 36 years old, my elders, the people in positions of authority, get a Miss, Mrs., or Mr. in front of their names as a sign of respect. I have moved more conservative in my own views and my own inner upbringing and how I plan to bring up my children. But the good moral compass was still there. You should be looking to yourself for that. You should be looking to yourself for safety. I do everything that I can to bring in more money. I'm looking at a career change right now to get the time freed up for Freedom Scoop. Because I'm looking to myself for making sure that I'm safe, not the government. But most of America isn't like that at this point. We have been convinced by our schools, definitely by our school systems, and the propaganda that comes out of them, and by our mainstream media sources, that we need the government to be safe. We need to look to the government for safety. And I'm here to tell you that, no, that's bullshit. You need to be looking to yourself for safety. Yourself. You are the first person. You are your own first line of defense. The government is so far down that line of defense, that line of safety, that line of morality, that it shouldn't even be on your radar right now. Yourself and your community should be your top two sources of safety, security, wealth, and morality. Unfortunately, in the minds of American people, and the people who are going to be watching this debate and voting, Lee Carson is right. But we need to start working to try to change that out of the culture. To try to bring the culture back to the point where we are looking to ourselves first and our governments last. All right, let's keep going. I got a couple more here. Then a thing I like and a thing that I hate, and head on out of here. Archived from Bloomberg because Bloomberg believes that their paywall is going to stop me. Deceased AstraZeneca trial volunteer didn't receive a vaccine from Timothy Annette and Walter Brandemarte. This is Ron Helton's favorite website, by the way, Bloomberg, because he loves Michael Bloomberg. I know he does. He says it in my chat all the time. Just a reminder that I will read your chat after we're off the air, too. So I know what you guys are saying. All right, let's see here. From Bloomberg, though. Bloomberg writes, a participant who died during a trial of AstraZeneca PLC's COVID-19 vaccine in Brazil hadn't received the company's shot, according to a person familiar with the matter. The person asked not to be identified because the information isn't public. Brazil's health authority, Anvisa, said it had been informed on Monday of the study volunteer's death and had received a partial report from an international committee assessing the trial safety. That committee suggested the trial should continue. Anvisa said in a statement, AstraZeneca, which is developing the vaccine with the University of Oxford, said it can't comment on individual cases because of the confidentiality and clinical trial rules. Oxford has no concerns about the safety of the vaccine trial after an independent and careful review, and Brazil's regulators have recommended that it continue, University Communications head Stephen Rouse said in a statement. AstraZeneca's American depository receipts fell as much as 3.3% in New York on Wednesday afternoon after word of the person's death, but trimmed most of those losses in recent trading. So the dude that died was apparently a part of the placebo group. So if you really want this vaccine, then you absolutely should be going ahead with this. I will not be taking the COVID vaccine. from reading your chat. I'm sure that most of you won't either, which is fine. That's your own prerogative. You need to look to yourself for safety, just as I just got done saying. But for the people that do want to take it, that do believe that this is the only way for them to be safe out in the world, then yes, AstraZeneca should continue going forward with trials. They are a for-profit company, and they do have a bill of sale to sell to the people anyway. So, our thoughts go out to the Brazilian who lost his life being a member of the placebo group. Placebo. I think it's made by Pfizer. All right. One more. Then a thing that I like and a thing that I hate, and then we'll head on out of here. NASA has exciting new moon announcement, how to listen and what it could be. On Monday, the space agency will unveil a discovery that contributes to its moon and deep space aspirations. From Amanda Kuser. Oh, I was reading earlier that they said it was going to be 5 weeks before they announce it. Now they're going to do it on Monday, which is fine. We'll figure out what it is on Monday. Buckle up for an exciting news discovery about the moon. NASA teased in an upcoming teleconference to share news results from its stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy, SOFIA, an airplane equipped with a telescope. Yeah, it must be getting towards the end of the show here. I'm starting to get tongue-tied. I have a stuffy nose, too. That's a part of it. This new discovery contributes to NASA's efforts to learn about the moon in support of deep space exploration, the agency said in a statement on Wednesday. The news is expected to tie in with the Artemis program, which aims to return humans to the moon in 2024, while also developing a moon presence as a stepping stone to the more distant destination of Mars. NASA isn't dropping many details about the announcement, but you can tune in for a live audio broadcast of the media teleconference on Monday, October 26th at 9 a.m. Pacific Time via the NASA Live website. SOFIA is a high-flying, customized 747 airplane flying above 99% of the atmosphere's obscuring water vapor. SOFIA observes in infrared wavelengths and can pick up phenomena impossible to see with visible light, NASA said. So we don't know what this is. I mean, we're seeing a lot of speculation and a lot of memes about this, and I do love the memes. I absolutely love the memes, especially the ones going around on Twitter showing a certain circle in the face of the moon and people coming out and saying, that's no moon. Maybe it is the Death Star up there. Who knows? Maybe that's going to be the discovery that wipes out humanity at the end of 2020 to walk through this crazy year. But we will see on Monday what this actually is and what happens with this. Kind of excited. I'm a bit of a space nerd. Kind of enjoy looking into space and space exploration. I mean, I'm watching Deep Space Nine for the second time right now. All right. That's it for news. Let's do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate and head on out of here. Thing that I liked this week. I think you guys knew this was coming because I started playing this over on my gaming streams, which are going to be suspended this week because of the debate, because I'm doing debate coverage tonight. And then I'm possibly hosting the Generational Gap tomorrow. I don't know if I can do that or not, but I will figure out what I've got to do with that. That's possible. That could be coming up here in the near future. But thing that I like today, I sat down and played Super Mario RPG. Going through it over on the emulator, and we're going to do this for Eddsworld Gaming for the next few weeks. This is not nearly as long as Fallout New Vegas. It is nowhere near that long. Not in any stretch of the imagination. We'll probably spend about 30 hours on it in total, if that. And I'm going to try and get as much of the stuff out of the game as I can. But I remember playing that game as a kid and how much fun it was. I played it on the emulator a few years ago, and it was still a whole ton of fun. A whole bunch of fun. It was something I very much enjoyed exploring, once again as an adult, and knowing a little bit more about this. And I'm enjoying playing it again, because now we've got a good conversation going on around it, too. You guys are really awesome in the live chat for that game, too, and I'm hoping that... I know that I talked to Kevin Castor about it on his stream, and he said that it invites a lot of backseat gamers, so hopefully that means I draw in a little bit of a new audience, and hopefully corrupt them over to the side of down with the government. Hopefully. We'll see what happens off of this here, but just a little bit off of Nintendo Wire because their anniversary 24 years was this past March, right before we went into worldwide timeout. There's probably no better way to prepare for the Mario Day anniversary than by celebrating the anniversary of a very special, very beloved Mario game. Today marks the 24th anniversary of Super Mario RPG, The Legend of Seven Stars, released on the Super Famicom in Japan. So, what makes this particular entry among Mario games worth observing? Deviating from the usual formula of the series, developer Square, now Square Enix, introduced fans to the concept of playing as Mario and other favorite characters in a role-playing fashion. He was removed from the 2D side-scrolling world and placed in a gorgeous 3D rendered universe where he could attack enemies in a very direct, fast-paced, action-based way. Mechanics and design aside, the story also brought forth new characters like fan favorites Mallow and Geno, as well as a brand new villain. Sure, Bowser's usual plot to kidnap Princess Peach, with the intention of defeating Mario once and for all, was still very present, but another malevolent layer was added to the story mix that gave the games even more substance. A group of anthropomorphic weapons called the Smithy Gang, led by none other than Smithy himself, invaded the Mushroom Kingdom with the intent to take over the world by destroying wishes and shattering the Star Road. Spoiler alert. After attacking Bowser's Keep, the new antagonists forced Bowser and Mario to join forces in order to bring peace back to the kingdom. Watching the unfamiliar plot unfold in the game was a refreshing treat for any fan. So, yeah, that's going to take us just a few weeks, probably into the new year at this point, with everything that's going on with election coverage. So, hope you guys will join me for more of that. I'm definitely looking forward to more of that. And we will see what comes out of that. And now let's do a thing that I hate. San Francisco votes in favor of the Karen Act to ban discriminatory 911 calls. This is from John Brown. The San Francisco Board of Supervisors voted unanimously on Tuesday to pass legislation that would allow the target of a racially motivated or otherwise discriminatory 911 call to sue the person who made it. The Caution Against Racial and Exploitative Non-Emergencies Act. Who comes up with these acronyms? My God. Would amend the San Francisco Police Code to make it unlawful to cause a peace officer to contact a person with a specific intent to discriminate against that person or otherwise infringe on that person's rights or cause the person specified harms on the basis of the person's race, color, ancestry, national origin, place of birth, sex, age, religion, creed, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, weight, or height. I can't see any way that this gets abused. I can't see any way at all that this gets abused. You want people, and this was a big one out of the Bush administration, and I mean, fuck W, first off, but it was also something out of Giuliani's administration, big one out of the Obama administration. The big things that came out of these administrations was, if you see something, say something. Call the police. Call 911 first if you see something suspicious. And now it's, you better be sure that this is something suspicious, that there's actually a crime being committed, or we're going to sue you. Now, mind you, it's already a law. It's already a suable offense. Plus, I believe a criminal offense to file a false police report. So there's already a law in the books for this, but now for even making the call. If a white person calls, and I can't see any universe where this doesn't get abused. I can't. Because if a white person sees a broken window and sees three guys in ski masks getting out of there, and it turns out that one of them was black, even if the other two were white, and it turns out one of them was black, they can all three turn around and sue the person for saying he discriminated against a black person. I can't see any universe where this doesn't get abused. And once again, my usual trope, step down some of the laws, get rid of some of the laws, and see if the crime rate stays up, which it won't. But this is just inviting abuse at this point. This is just an invitation. If you're in any of these big liberal cities at this point, San Francisco, LA, Chicago suburbs, I know that I got one viewer out there that is in the Chicago suburbs, Orlando even, get the hell out of there at this point, because this shit isn't going to stop. It's not going to stop anywhere. It's only going to get worse. So that's the thing that I hate today. And that's going to be it for the day. We will be back here later on tonight with debate coverage. Confirmed Stephen Ignoramus and the R-Rated Conservative. So come on over. It'll be on my channels and the R-Rated Conservatives channels, with a possible third coming on with us. Hopefully, I really look forward to having the conversation with the dude and watching that. So hopefully we see off of that there. That will be at 8 p.m. Central Time. I will start the stream at 7:30 Central Time, so we can get everybody up and seated, ready for the show, and make sure that we're ready to go and watch this. So looking forward to that there. Looking to see what comes out of this, because with the mic muted, I know that we joked during the primaries when they were muting the mics that if Trump was up on the stage, he would just go up and take somebody else's mics and say, no, excuse me, no, my mic's not working. I got something to say. No. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with this. I can't wait. This is the reality show government that we all asked for when we voted for Obama. We got the first reality TV show president, and now we have the king of reality TV as the president. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Otherwise, we will be back here tomorrow with more Contemporary. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.